Hello, friends from across the nation and around the world. I'm Martin, and you are listening to Dad's Bedtime Stories. Tonight, it's time to make our way back into the Dragon Knight series. Now, if you've never listened to the Dragon Knight series before, it's honestly not a big deal. This episode can work as a standalone episode, honestly, and if you like it, you can go check out the rest. Now, let's dig into the voicemail here and see what ideas we have.
Hello, my name is Stafford, and I would like to suggest as you find the air dragon egg, and it hatches to a person named James. When the dragon chooses its name to be Whisper, and then you fight the weakest elemental dragon. Okay, bye. Love your podcast.
Great suggestion, Stafford. I think James is a great name for our Air Dragon Knight, and Whisper is a great name for the Air Dragon. Tonight, I'm actually going to tell the story of James and Whisper, kind of like I did for the Rock Dragon, and then later on in a future episode, we'll kind of get back to your point of view as the Elemental Dragon Rider, if that makes any sense. Before we get started, just one shout out to give to my newest Patreon sponsor. Thank you to Max and Max Jr. Max Jr. is apparently a dragon stuffy, which is perfectly appropriate for this. Max is from Indianapolis, and he's my latest Patreon sponsor, so thank you very much, Max. Hopefully you listen to this episode since you seem to like dragons. Now, get as comfy as you can in that bed, close your eyes, and imagine yourself doing what the kid in the story does. James had grown up on a mountain where the wind never slept. It whispered through the trees, howled around their small cabin. To most people, it was just weather, but to James, it was something alive. He could feel it brushing against him like a friend. He could hear it hum melodies between the rocks. He even thought he could sense when it was happy or angry. His parents just called it his mountain imagination, figuring he didn't have many friends. "James," his mother would say, "you'll catch cold if you keep chatting to the wind instead of finishing your chores." He'd grin and wave as if saying goodbye to someone unseen, and then head off to gather firewood or fetch water from the stream. Chores always came first. Life on the mountain wasn't easy. The soil was rocky, and storms would roll in without warning. Really powerful storms. Still, James and his family managed with goats, root vegetables, and a stubborn belief that hard work would be enough. But for James, the wild was never something to keep away. It was where he belonged. Whenever his chores were done, he'd run through the meadows barefoot, shouting into the wind. "Come on," he'd yell, "race you to the ridge." And sometimes, just sometimes, a gust would rise behind him. At night, when the family gathered by the fire, the wind would rattle the windows. James would tilt his head, listening. It's saying something," he'd say. "It says, 'The storm's going north tonight.'" His father would just chuckle, but strangely, James was almost always right. "The boy's got the weather sense of an old shepherd," he'd say. But sometimes James heard words that he couldn't explain, soft as a sigh, almost like a voice. When he was sad, the wind comforted him. When he was afraid, it wrapped around him gently. He didn't know that the wind had been watching him just as closely as he watched it. waiting for the day he was ready to listen, not just with his ears, but with his soul. That day was closer than anyone knew. It happened on one of those days when the sky was super blue. James was up on the ridge splitting kindling when the wind began to shift. It wasn't the usual steady breeze that rolled over the mountain. This one circled him like a curious animal. The air tickled the back of his neck, stirred his hair, and sent leaves dancing around his boots. Then he heard it. Faint but unmistakable. A whisper. "Follow." He froze, the axe still in his hand. "Follow what?" he asked. The wind answered with another swirl of leaves darting toward the higher peaks, like a trail of breadcrumbs. James dropped his axe, grabbed his small satchel, and began climbing. He'd explored the slopes his whole life, but the wind took him somewhere he'd never been before. He followed it all the way up to the mountain's upper ledges, where even goats would refuse to climb. There, half hidden by twisted pine trees, he saw it. A shallow little opening that shimmered faintly in the light. The air around it twisted like heat rising off a stone. He pulled the trees and bushes aside and poked his head in. The air was still, unnaturally still. James hesitated, but something inside him told him to press on. So he pulled a flint and steel out of his backpack, gathered some small twigs from the pine trees, and lit a small fire. He found a dead pine branch that seemed to be covered in enough pine tar, and he lit it up. He used it as a torch as he walked into the cave. The light flickered against stone walls that looked too perfect to be natural. The steps were carved from solid rock, and the air carried a faint hum. James went down the stairs carefully, one hand brushing against the wall. At the bottom of the stairs, the tunnel opened into a round chamber. The walls were lined with strange markings, spirals, gusts, and symbols. But in the center of the chamber, on top of a large stone pedestal, was something unexpected. An egg. An enormous egg, nearly as tall as James' chest. Its shell was a mix of pale gray and blue that seemed to shimmer faintly in the torchlight. He reached out a trembling hand, whispering, "Is this what I was supposed to find?" The wind that had guided him all day pushed against him once more, shooting him forward just a bit until his hand made contact with the egg. A crack of light shot through the egg, blinding and sudden. The wind returned all at once, roaring through the chamber. His torch blew out, he stumbled backwards, and the egg split open. From within, a little dragon burst forth in a swirl of glowing air, long and slender like a serpent, its scales the color of clouds. The creature hovered above the cracked shell, not flapping its small feathery wings, but just kinda floating there. It turned its gaze to James. Are you my dragon knight?" James' mouth opened. His knees went weak. I don't think so," he stammered. The dragon tilted its head, studying him. It sniffed the air, then closed its eyes as if it was listening to something. The wind whispered through the chamber once more. "Yes," it said, a smile in its voice. You are my dragon knight." Before James could move, warmth surged through his chest, a pulsing warmth that felt like a second heartbeat. The dragon's heartbeat? "I am Whisper," said the dragling circling around him. "Who are you?" "I am James," James said. "Well, James of the mountain, you are bound to me by the wind itself." James swallowed hard. "Why, can you talk?" "Oh, all dragons can talk. Unlike you humans who are born absolutely helpless and pathetic, dragons are born with the core memories and experiences of our parent. Talking is one of those memories. And you're flying, but you're not even using your wings," James said. Whisper just grinned. "I am a wind dragon. I am one with the wind. The wind does not need wings to float, so neither do I." As if to show off, Whisper floated around in a little loop. "That's incredible. I'm hungry," Whisper said. "Newly hatched dragons must eat to grow." "Oh," James said. "What do you eat? There's nothing down here but rocks." Whisper blinked, tilting his head. "I eat air, of course." "Air?" James replied. "Yes, air. It's full of energy. You humans eat it too. Though, from what I recall, you don't think of it that way." "What do you mean we eat it? I guess we breathe it." "Well, how long can you go without food?" the dragon asked. I don't know, like a couple weeks if you really had to." "And how long can you go without water?" A lot less long, a day or two," James replied. "And how long can you go without air?" A minute or two, I guess. I sort of see your point. Air is essential to humans, but it is more essential to air dragons." With that, Whisper inhaled deeply. The air in the cave rushed toward him like a whirlpool, stirring dust and loose pebbles. It was so strong that James stumbled backward. Then, just as suddenly, Whisper stopped. His belly glowed faintly, he burped, and he grew. Just a little bit. "Better," the dragon sighed. "But I'll need more if I'm to match my knight." He inhaled again. The mountain outside groaned as the air was drawn inward. Once again, the dragon burped and grew just a little bit more. Whisper had now just about doubled in size. He was almost as tall as James was. "There," Whisper said, stretching. "That is better." You grew just by breathing?" James asked. "Wind dragons are one with the air. It may not look like much, but it is still energy. And I believe this energy has made me remember even more." Like what?" James asked. For one, I remember my mother telling me to find you." She did?" James said, shocked. Whisper nodded. "She said the world is changing. A darkness spreads. A thief of dragons. A breaker of bonds. She said I would need my knight soon." "The Dragon King," James murmured, remembering the whispers his parents traded at night when they thought he was asleep. "Yes, he bends dragons to his will. He cannot control what is freely chosen." He looked straight at James. "And I choose you." The words settled in James' chest like a vow. Outside, the wind began to pick up again. The two of them climbed and, well, floated in the case of Whisper, back into the daylight. Then, the two of them returned home. By the time they got there, the sky had begun to darken. Long fingers of wind curled through the trees. Whisper floated quietly behind James. James' mother was standing outside with a basket of laundry when she saw them. The basket fell to the ground, scattering clean shirts and socks into the dirt. By the clouds," she said. "James, what have you done?" "It's all right, Mama," James said quickly. "This is Whisper. He's my dragon." Your what?" Whisper bowed in midair. "A pleasure, madam. I promise not to eat your laundry." James' father came out of the barn. He froze on the spot. "That can't be real," he muttered. "I'm real," Whisper said cheerfully. "But, I do try not to be too alarming." The man took a step back. "James, if anyone sees this, the Dragon King's hunters will come. You've heard the stories." "They will not find us easily," Whisper said. "The wind hides its own." For a long moment, no one spoke. Then James' mother stepped forward, brushing her fingers along Whisper's cool scales. "You feel alive," she murmured. "Not like the tales of the stolen dragons." "I am free," Whisper replied, "and so is your son." His parents exchanged a look. They were clearly afraid. James could see it. But also, there was something else. Hope, maybe? That night, they invited Whisper to stay. The dragon coiled himself up beside the house. Over the next few days, Whisper continued to grow rapidly. By the week's end, he was the size of a cart, and when he lifted from the ground, the gusts nearly tore the clothesline away. And each day, Whisper taught James something new. First, how to summon his dragon armor. Then, he showed him how to shape gusts of air with his hands, to push objects across the yard, to lift a fallen bucket into the air without touching it, using only the wind. James practiced until his fingers tingled with energy. Soon, Whisper allowed him to climb on his back. Their first flight was sort of clumsy. James clung to the dragon's neck with both arms and screamed most of the way. But then, fear turned to exhilaration. They soared over the valleys, darting through the clouds, the world spinning beneath them. Whisper was impossibly fast, so fast that the air cracked in a sharp boom behind them. When they landed, James was breathless and laughing. You broke the sky," he shouted. "That is what the wind does when it gets excited." James' lessons started to grow harder. Whisper insisted that the bond between dragon and knight was one of harmony. "You can't make the wind obey. he told James one morning as they stood in the cliffside. "You must ask it. You must become it." James frowned. "That doesn't even make sense." "It will," Whisper said, curling around him. "Close your eyes. Feel where the air begins and where it ends. Then stop it from ending." James tried just that. The mountain air swirled around his skin, soft, playful, cool. He could hear it rustling the trees and whispering to the rocks. Slowly, it stopped feeling like something outside him. It was everywhere, flowing through his hair, into his lungs, and even through his bloodstream. "Good," Whisper murmured. "Now, let go of the ground." "I can't just let go of the ground." Before James could finish, Whisper gave a flick of his tail, sending a small gust under the boy's feet. James yelped as he lifted half a foot off the ground. "You can," Whisper said, "but not through fear. The wind loves freedom. Fear is a chain." James scowled but tried again, and again, and again. Each time he got a little higher off the ground. Half a second longer, a full second, and eventually he was able to hover in the air for a little bit. Days passed, and with each time he tried, it became a little less impossible. One afternoon, as the sun blazed over the peaks, James finally figured out how to let go completely. He felt the wind, breathed the air, allowed it to flow through his body, until he felt that he and the air had completely become one. Then, he just allowed it to move with the air itself. He slowly floated up off of the ground. No gusts of air pushing underneath him, just floating. I'm flying," he said. "Of course you are," Whisper replied. "You are a wind knight." The two took off into the open sky, boy and dragon dancing in perfect sync. James learned to ride the air currents, to drift and dive, to burst forward with sudden speed. His laughter echoed through the valley below. When he landed beside Whisper, his knees shook with excitement. "That was the greatest thing I've ever done." Whisper gave a knowing nod. "The first time always feels like that. The world feels small until you see it from the sky." "I don't ever want to stop," James said. And then he felt something else. A restless chill that swept through the valley. "Something's wrong," he said quietly. "I can feel it in the wind." Before James could ask, a shadow passed over the mountain. He looked up to see a massive figure slicing through the sky. Another dragon, but larger, bigger, and shaped pretty differently, less serpent-like for one. Whisper's expression hardened. "An elemental. And something is wrong with it. It's controlled." James' stomach dropped. "Controlled by the Dragon King?" Whisper nodded. "One of his riders." The air grew tense as the approaching dragon circled once and then dove straight towards them. "Run!" Whisper cried. They launched skyward together. James clung to Whisper's back as they climbed higher and higher, the air thinning with each breath. But somehow, The massive dragon followed them. How is he as quick as you?" he asked. "He is an elemental dragon. They can use all of the elements, including wind. Though they aren't as good as I am, they are still pretty effective." James looked back in time to see the elemental dragon open its mouth and blast out a burst of fire. Whisper quickly swirled over to the side and changed directions. The dragon followed. They swooped down towards the ground and through a cavern, but the elemental dragon continued to follow, summoning rocks from the ground and shooting them forward towards James and Whisper. Again, with the grace only an air dragon could muster, Whisper looped around in a spiral, missed every single rock, and then shot upward again. He attempted his sonic boom move, suddenly shooting forward at incredible speed as James clung to his back the best he could, but somehow the elemental dragon did the same, catching the same burst of speed and chasing them from behind. This time, spikes of ice shot past them as Whisper ducked and dodged. "We cannot do this forever," he said. "If we can't outrun him, we must defeat him. I am remembering something. These controlled dragons, without freedom, their power falters. Their rider is not connected like you. He will not be able to command the elements himself, and without him, his dragon should not know what to do. If you can surprise the rider, we may be able to do something about him." Well, maybe I have an idea, James said. "You dive down quickly and I'll do the rest." "Okay, if you're sure," Whisper said. He dove down straight towards the ground, and the elemental dragon followed. James waited for the perfect moment, and then he let go of his dragon. He grabbed the wind itself and shot himself upward, straight towards the dragon and its rider. The rider didn't have a chance. He had no time to react. James was flying at incredible speed and in the opposite direction he was. James gathered a gust of wind and shot it forward directly towards the rider. The blast of air separated the rider from the dragon. The dragon spread its wings and slowly allowed itself to glide down towards the ground, while the rider continued to fall. James shot down towards the poor guy, grabbed him with a gust of wind, and did his best to soften his fall. Not too much, mind you. The man still crashed into the ground with some pretty incredible force, enough that it would make it hard to get back up very quickly. James shot up to the sky and connected with Whisper once again. They quickly burst towards their home as quickly as they could. James' parents rushed from the cabin the moment they saw him and Whisper land. His mother ran to him first. We saw the fire from below. We thought you were..." "I'm fine," James said, "but they found us, one of the Dragon King's riders." "Then more will come," his father said, looking up to the sky. "Unfortunately, you are right. Now that they know we are here, they won't stop until they find us. And I'm sorry, but that means that if we stay, you will be in danger." James' father looked at his wife and then back at James. "We knew this day would come. As soon as we saw you with that dragon, we knew. You must go. We've packed a bag for you." James' mother lifted up a large backpack and handed it to James. "We love you, son, and if you want to stay, well, we'll do our best to stay with you. But I think you better follow your destiny. It's time to head off and find the others." "The others?" James said. "The others like us," Whisper replied. "We are not the only dragon knights. There were more who were set to become the chosen ones. I can feel them. The wind can feel them." "Then we have to go," James said. He gave both of his parents a long and very strong hug. Then he climbed atop the wind dragon. He waved goodbye as the dragon gracefully shot up in the air and zipped up towards the clouds. As it flew gracefully high above the sky, James just sort of spread out on the creature. It had become large enough by now that James could comfortably lay down on top of it. And after a long day and a long battle like that, that's exactly what he decided to do. As the dragon floated beneath him, moving gently with the gusts of wind, James closed his eyes and slowly allowed himself to drift off to thoughts of new dreams and new adventures to come. Good night, everyone.